when I think back over the 4 days that I was out of town, I realized that everything I did touched on all the phases of life because I was celebrating a birthday. We attended a wedding. I did a funeral. And we even threw in like a serial killer exhibit. So I touched on that too. My daughter and the things that she wants to do is just really, really an interesting thing. But at any rate, so out of this past weekend kind of rose the content of this lesson. But before I dive into all of it, I'm going to invite Trudy up to provide a short reading to set up the lesson. So come on up, Trudy. She was brave. She said yes.
Morning. The reading today is from New Design for Living, the textbook from the last class that we had. Limitations are always easy to establish, in fact, too easy. Every time we reflect on our inability to do or accomplish something, we are setting up an increased barrier to the doing or accomplishing. Every time we have an alibi for undesired results we may have achieved, we firmly establish that alibi as the limiting factor for our future activity. Every way we turn, we find that for the most part we are spending our time setting up and maintaining limitations rather than removing them and moving ahead free and unrestricted. The person who is able to free their thoughts from the dominance of the past, from confining self-imposed restrictions as to what and how they will think, who places no barriers on the good today will bring, is the one who is able to live a creative life.
So when we read that in our textbook in class last month, I knew that I wanted to give a lesson about the alibis that we establish for ourselves. Because if we want to claim higher ground, which is what this whole year is about, we're going to have to let go of the alibis we have established so that we can go beyond the limits that those alibis place on us. And in the wake of someone important passing, as is the case with our two community members, Barley and Kathy, we all think about what did they do in their lives, and we think about the dreams that we have for our own lives. It's one of those kind of milestones where we kind of reassess things, right? So what do we mean by an alibi? What do I mean by an alibi? What did Ernest Holmes mean by using that word? What is an alibi? So if you're accused of doing something wrong, one of the first things investigators want to establish is whether or not you have an alibi. Meaning, what is your excuse for not being involved? How can you prove that you didn't have the means or the access to do the thing? Okay, so that's what I mean by an alibi, and I think that's what Ernest Holmes meant too. So in promoting this lesson, I asked the question, or an alibi is the excuse given to explain how you couldn't possibly have done something. What is the alibi you give when asked about your biggest dreams? What is your excuse for why you are having the result in your life that you are having? What have you told yourself about why you don't have the means or the access to the thing or desired results? Woo, that's a big question. And if you want to rise above your current result, can you let go of your alibi in order to claim higher ground? That's my lesson today. So when I look back at some of the dreams that I held for my life, I can see some of my alibis revealed pretty quickly. So here I'm going to give you a few examples. So often I was asked why I didn't go to like an Ivy League school. So I was valedictorian in my class. My extracurricular activities were above and beyond typical, and looking back I can see that I would have made an admissions officer dream come true. But I couldn't see it at the time for myself. My answer is and was, the thoughts in my head were, I'm from a small little rural high school. You know, I don't have the educational foundation to make it in one of those big academic stages. I just didn't see it was possible. I was really afraid to even apply because it was beyond my reach, too unrelatable as an option. That was what I told myself. When I look at my dream of becoming either an attorney or a psychiatrist, I didn't think that I had the stamina to go to school that long without starting a career to support myself. I really didn't. I didn't see it as possible. At that young age, I knew I had to support myself, and the years required and dedication to achieving those goals just really seemed beyond my ability to commit. I couldn't afford to be pursuing education that long. That was the story I told myself. My dream of adopting another child is also one I could look at. I tell myself that it didn't happen because my hands were really full with my daughter's medical needs. And as a newly single mom, I just didn't think there was enough energy or time. And without someone to pursue that dream with me, it just didn't seem feasible. More alibis. So my list of unfulfilled early dreams could go on, but basically my alibis had to do with how I viewed myself through the lens of my upbringing, of my smallness, my ideas about how much internal focus or time I could dedicate to something, how much energy I could summon up, how creative I could be with how I used my resources. But I have to question, how real and true were those alibis? Is it true that I wasn't smart enough, strong enough, focused enough, had enough time or the right support? Is that true? Because when I really look at it, those are just thoughts and ideas that I claimed were true, and therefore to me they were true. Because I can look around and see others who came from similar backgrounds and went to the most prestigious schools and who had far more intense educational journeys than I did to their dream vocations. They figured out how to pay for life and do what they needed to do, adopted multiple children with special needs, right? Somehow I just couldn't see those possibilities for myself. Why? Because I created a barrier in my thoughts between me and them. The difference between me and them is that they told themselves a different story that did not limit themselves with an alibi the way I did. And even the bigger question is, am I letting those same alibis block me from anything that I dream of in my life now? The answer is yes, but I have better tools now. So 2 examples. I've shared these in different lessons. One of them was that I've been thinking about having a book club in my neighborhood for like a long time, a few years. My alibis were things like, oh, I don't know enough neighbors, and I don't know if I have the time to devote to that, and my schedule's really full, and the same stories I used to excuse myself from anything in life, I use for that. But in January, I released my alibis and I got started. The second dream is about singing a solo. Don't listen, Derek. Don't listen. So my entire life, I have sung with choral groups. And I've avoided auditioning for solos. Why? Because I'm not talented enough. I'm not good enough to do it. And while I still do not sing solos with the choral group I sing in, I do allow myself to do it here because I don't have an alibi here. No alibis here. I changed my mind. So our philosophy is, if we change our minds, if we change our thinking, we can change our lives. And some of the first level of thinking we might want to examine is our list of alibis or excuses for why we aren't reaching the desired results in our lives. And I've taught classes around here for so many years, and in Atlanta too, and I've seen similar alibis in the students that you may be able to relate to. There was a student who didn't believe he could have financial freedom because he had to file for bankruptcy during a bitter divorce. He just couldn't see a financial future for himself. He had an alibi. Another believed she couldn't travel internationally because she just really couldn't figure out the logistics in another country. She didn't feel like she could do that. She had an alibi. One student truly believed that no one could be trusted. No one could be trusted. So an extreme level of privacy was maintained. Never would ask for help, never would let people in. So the alibis and the mental barriers are so real when we're facing them. But Holmes is encouraging us to set ourselves free because Spirit wants to express through each of us in the biggest and most amazing ways possible. And the practice of evaluating our thought patterns can be so very freeing. That's the basis of my lesson today. So as you know, most of you know, I just returned this week from Cincinnati, where I officiated the celebration of life for Barley Garza Mappus. Now, over the past few weeks, we've been, kind of getting bits and dribbles about Barley, as we've announced her passing and tried to help those of you who didn't know her kind of understand a little bit more about who she was in this community. But today I want to go beyond bits and dribbles and adequately share about Barley as her life story fits our lesson today about alibis quite beautifully. So first of all, let me explain who Barley was to our community, since many of you don't know her. So Barley was a licensed practitioner who, prior to living here in Tampa, grew up in Ohio and also spent some years of her young adulthood in Colorado. And then when she kind of got older, she split her time between here around all of us and back up in Ohio with her family. So back in 2011, when this center was forming, Barley and Dennis became kind of instrumental in the creation of this center, just as they were for the center in Cincinnati. It looks like wherever they went, they wanted a spiritual center, and if they had to create one, that's just what they were going to do. There was no alibi for not having a spiritual community. They were going to create it. So by the time I arrived in 2017, Barley was serving as a practitioner. She was our primary teacher. She was on the board. She became the president of the board shortly thereafter. So from my perspective, she and Dennis were like this major force in our community. Her impact was tremendous. Barley co-signed for this building we sit in today. Right? She was that important to the community. She taught classes for years and created a spiritual foundation that so many people learned and grew on. And there's no telling how many of her students became practitioners and ministers, but I met a few of them in Cincinnati, and I know there's some in the room today. But personally, she had a tremendous impact on other people. Barley was she was my biggest spiritual support here in this community from the day I arrived. I spent countless hours in personal conversations and in like center-related meetings with Barley, and more countless hours on the highway going back and forth, because we both lived south and we would commute together. So we had all these time to talk about everything about the center. Bottom line, we talked about every topic under the sun. And through all this talking, I became very aware of how she viewed life, her spiritual beliefs, her decision-making strategies, her deepest heart. I also fully realized she allowed herself zero alibis. She took full responsibility for the unfolding of her own dreams, and she did so using this amazing human-level determination that she had, but her spiritual fortitude and practice were unparalleled. So Barley was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at age 9. And so she knew how hard like pregnancy would be on her body. So she and Dennis decided to not have any natural children. But she had this deep dream to be a mom. She just could not imagine life without being a mom. So allowing herself no alibi, it would have been easy to just say, okay, that's not for me. She went on and went into that very complicated process and adopted 2 newborn baby girls. And now Alexia and Megan are, accomplished adults, and they have their own children. She created that legacy. And when I was in Cincinnati, I met some of her extended family too, and they all shared how Barley never let seemingly anything stop her from doing anything. Oh, she too was the valedictorian of her class, and we teased each other endlessly about that. But in a time when being a woman meant so many barriers, she just leapt right over them. She went to Xavier University at a time when they weren't even letting women in, and she just made it happen. She just saw no barriers. She was one of the most fearless, positive, deeply spiritual individuals I have ever known. Let me explain further. Her health was so complicated, she was legally blind. I used to call myself her seeing eye minister, because we'd walk around the world holding hands, because she would trip over everything. She would fall down. I've seen her fall down so many times. She'd just get herself right back up. But Barley went anywhere and everywhere she wanted to go, because she would just simply ask the closest person next to her, will you help me do this? And it sounds like her life was limited, but let me keep sharing. Barley was not legally allowed to drive a car. Thank goodness. But she found a way around that. She moved to Sun City Center, where she could go anywhere she wanted to go on a golf cart at a rapid speed. She would go on that golf cart everywhere, fast. It was scary. Been in the golf cart with her. She went everywhere. Her independence was so important to her that she chose to live in a place where she could drive, where that did not limit her either. The inability to drive was not allowed to be an excuse for her daily living. She wanted to walk the Camino de Santiago, that spiritually mindful experience of walking from France and Spain and Portugal. Now remember, she's blind. And when you walk the Camino, you have to carry your own pack, and it takes weeks. But Barley figured out how to do it. She got a group of women together. She made her daughter, her seeing eye daughter, and they walked the Camino. Nothing held her back. She had no alibis, no excuses. So where did Barley get her strength, her courage, her fortitude? How did she move about with so few limitations? I'm going to let her answer that herself. So I read this piece of writing at her memorial on Monday, and I believe it is a message for all of us today, too. This is what she wrote in 2018. This is Barley speaking to all of you. Is your life filled with blessings and goodness? Have you reached your goals and aspirations? Is it time to relax and accept that this is good as it gets? She quotes Ernest Holmes. Since God is infinite, our expansion is progressive and eternal. No matter how much good we experience today, the infinite has more in store for us tomorrow. We should joyfully look forward to this expansion with enthusiastic anticipation. The march of life is not dismal, but a song of triumph. That's Ernest Holmes from his book, Spiritual Awareness. And Barley goes on to say, it is because God is infinite that each one of us expands moment by moment, day by day, month by month, year by year, now and forever. I always think of this as an upward spiral representing my consciousness ever expanding in depth, width, and circumference. My spiral isn't alone in time and space. It constantly intersects other spirals as it grows and evolves. This is the way of progress. Am I content? She asks. Yes and no. I love my life and can hardly imagine how it could be better. I am truly grateful for the love, peace, joy, abundance, health, and beauty I experience daily. But Ernest says that the infinite has even more in store for me tomorrow. How is this possible when I am already so richly blessed? My upward spiral of consciousness continues to expand and in so doing intersects with yours. We get to influence each other by sharing Spirit's goodness, by supporting our mutual growth, by joyfully expecting and gratefully acknowledging God's gracious gifts. She closes with, my song is one of triumph, and I choose to share my song with you. Let's continue to create a world with more shared goodness, moment by moment. Are you enthusiastically anticipating more good for yourself and others? I am. Barley Garza Mappis. That was written by this blind woman. I would have crumpled into a corner. And she's a song of triumph. So Barley simply enthusiastically anticipated more and more good for herself. And she could see no reason not to expect more good to show up, for her life to be expansive and for her to be able to do anything she set her mind to doing. So if we go back to the reading that Trudy did at the beginning, Barley didn't sit around and reflect on the reasons her life wasn't the way she wanted it to be. She did not pull out any of the easily accessible and perfectly understandable excuses for living a small life, smaller than she desired for herself. No, I never once heard her use the excuse that she was legally blind. Matter of fact, most people would walk up and not understand why she didn't shake their hand because they didn't know she was legally blind unless she was holding something very close to her eyes to read. You could not tell. She trusted the world around her to love and support her when she needed help. She simply asked the nearest person to help her. So what is the lesson here? I invite you to take a look at the things you tell yourself about why you aren't doing this or that, why you aren't living the way you deeply wish you could, why you can't make the change you know you need to make. Whatever alibi you've made up for yourself, take a good hard look at it and see if it's spiritually true. Barley never trusted any alibi she ever heard. She questioned the validity and the truth of any excuse for not achieving your dreams and your highest goals. Most of us don't have visual impairment or significant health challenges like she did, but even if that is the case, that is what's going on. Most of us don't find the path to take ourselves beyond those kinds of limitations. We gladly accept the alibi. I don't know about you, but barley will always inspire me to examine my inner stories and the ways in which I define myself in limited ways. I want us all to stop reflecting on the reasons things aren't the way we desire them to be and start imagining those barriers melting. Those barriers that sit in our minds between our life as it is right now and the way we want it to be. Let's imagine those barriers vanishing as we rise to greater heights. The bottom line is you are good enough. You are smart enough. You do have as much time as is required to do the thing. You are loved and supported on the web of life. And when you change your thinking and start walking towards your dreams and goals, the barriers start to disappear and spirit starts flowing divine energy to carry you forward. It's how life works. Let's keep rising together, and Barley will be cheering us on always. God bless you, Barley. Our prayer is going to be the song, Amazing Things.
You will do amazing things with the choice each new day brings. And with every step you take, bless the progress that you make. The reason you live is there in every gift you give. Love your life and love your dreams. You will do amazing things. Amazing, amazing. You will do amazing things. Amazing, amazing. You will do amazing things. Oh, the places you will go and the people you will know. Don't worry about when or where or how. You don't need to know that now. You're on the right track. No need to look ahead or back. Just enjoy what this day brings. You will do amazing things. You don't have to work it out. Just stay in the here and now. Let your mind rest for just a little while. Sometimes deepest answers come when you're out there having fun. So close your eyes, take a breath, and smile. Amazing, amazing. You will do amazing things. I need your help. Sing it with me. Amazing.